Alrighty. Welcome to Romera Records virtual cast. Today we have on Drew Fleming. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So, I basically know you as the Film Jerk and probably thousands of other people. They just know you.
Ugh,
As-
dozens of other people probably.
I basically, I don't even know. Honestly, so to give you my story, I just moved to Memphis around 2019. It was April 2019. And I've slowly started meeting people, doing podcasts, and just following people on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. And I think I just stumbled upon your page. Like, I don't know how, but where it was, shout out to them. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Memphis is small enough. It's like I feel like any artist, you just run into each other eventually. As long as you're not too much of a recluse.
yeah,
So yeah, that makes sense.
you've done some really cool things, and I kind of want to get into them.
Thanks.
As much as you can talk about the stuff that you're currently working on or will work on. I know how videography works. You know, you don't want to release too much information, but I guess give me and the listeners a little lowdown on, I guess, how your past work and how you've gotten into videography. I don't know if you do photography as well, but just a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
I do. Uh, well, the elevator pitch fast version. I wanted to be a writer out of high school and kind of got into movies. I took a film class at in college. I graduated from University of Memphis with a video production degree. Um, I would not recommend that as the way to get into this stuff, though. I think, especially now, um,
Why is
just it, I that's I could fill the whole hour, but I think
that?
uh, I didn't really learn any of the specific camera stuff I know from U of M. They're just a little dated, and the professors were great, and I learned a lot on like documentary theory from my documentary teacher, and editing, just technique stuff. So that was valuable, but there's really not a like path of like graduate and then go do XYZ. Especially in Memphis, it's such a small town. If somebody really wants to do video or film, I hate to say this, but I think you should leave.
Hmm.
And I know that sucks, and I've gone back and forth on this stuff. But the University of Memphis doesn't even really want to pay full rate for videographers who have a degree from there in video.
Hmm.
It's just Memphis thing. I think the industry is really small here, and at some point you kind of hit a ceiling, or you're dumb enough to stick it out for 15 years like I have. So uh, when I was 18, I worked on a TV show where I was living at the time. I lived in Florida for like 3 years, right around high school and first year of college. But otherwise, I'm from here. And then my family moved back here, and I came back to Memphis, and I finished school and freelance, did a bunch of other jobs. I was like a server, a bank tech guy, a bunch of stuff. And I would just go. When I worked at the bank, I volunteered to work on my first movie here in like 2008 or 2009. And it was a feature film, and I would work till 5 at the bank out in Carville and then drive downtown and work just as a production assistant, just help carry shit basically and get made fun of. And just see how the process worked on a feature film here that was independent, until 2 or 3 in the morning, and drive back home and do it all again. For I did that for a couple of weeks. I met a bunch of great people, and kind of figured out, oh, this is what I want to do. And I really liked the idea of the camera, and I kind of just leaned into trying to learn how to do everything on set. I just thought that would be really important to understand how to make something good. And since then it was like I did freelance, and then I worked at a production company in town for 3 years, and then I've worked at the ad agency. I'm a video director for 7, and I've kind of done independent and commercial work outside of that. And I started as like a PA, and then I learned how to do audio and did audio for like, you know, this is my dog, Captain. I learned how to do audio, and then I learned how to do lights, and then I learned how to do assistant directing, and cinematography kind of ended up being my favorite thing. Um, but that's about it, I think especially in Memphis, you have to support whatever artistic endeavor you're doing with a commercial version of it. So I just kind of picked advertising and commercial video because you get to, you know, uh, work on those chops in a lot of different ways that you can apply to your films, and then you learn things on your films that get you bigger clients and vice versa. You know,
Mm. So, going back to a lot of things you said, I've got 1,000 questions about that kind of stuff.
that's fine. Yeah,
So, number one, when you were talking about if you want to really get into this kind of stuff, you have to leave Memphis, and that's something I've started to find out about music as well. Like, it's very odd. Some of the greatest music has been made in Memphis, and then it's like some of the greatest current artists from Memphis, they're usually not in Memphis. They're somewhere else.
no, and I hate that because I love Memphis so much. And I chose a while ago to not go to LA. Where even if I could cut it there, I'd be like one in a million, and I wouldn't really have a connection there. I kind of always wanted to tell stories about my hometown, and I feel like there's a lot of stories that are underserved here, and that's kind of what my independent career has been. And then my documentary feature film I'm working on, we can talk about. And I'm a huge music fan, music nerd, and I kind of just started getting into like studio sessions and filming live events and filming and different artist promos and stuff like that. Like I've done a ton of rap videos and uh some like country videos and then a few rock ones, but I've always had more fun on the rap videos just because I grew up in Memphis and like 3-6. Like that's what I like doing, and I always like filming and learning about, maybe a spot where I wouldn't normally be unless I had like said, hey, I'll come film this. So I think it's important to kind of mix it up. And I've just always had a lot of fun meeting different people in Memphis through music and film. But that, I think that ceiling of, if you want to make it overall, I don't know if Memphis is the spot, but I know that you can make a lot of noise here and do things you want to do, and that's important too. I mean, I'm always going to support artists in Memphis, and I guess I'm one, but I've struggled a lot lately because once you get to a certain level, and I don't mean this in a way that I think I'm shit or anything, because I'm not, but there's just not that many people in Memphis who do what I do. There's like 5 of us or something. I don't know. And there's some really, really talented people, and it's not because other people don't want to do that. It's because at a certain level, most people realize they have to leave. And so there's just not that many people, who stay because the opportunities kind of shrivel up once you get to that bigger thing. Like I've done a dozen short films now or more, and I feel like I just don't, I don't really have anything left to prove on that. And the features, despite all the success we've had with our short films, like the features don't really just happen here. Um, you kind of need those networks from out of town, and that's what I think that probably happens with music too, where you get to a certain level, and then it's like you need real label support. And there's some great labels close, like Fat Possum, and others. I don't like naming names and these sort of things because I don't want to leave anyone out, but uh, they do exist here. It's just harder path, you know. Um, I don't know. I'll answer your question. I'm sorry you're not going to edit this because I just go.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So, um, I definitely see what you're talking about because, like, if you think of probably a horrible comparison, but like if LeBron James continued to play on his high school basketball team and never went to the NBA, I mean, obviously he's going to get older and he's going to continue to just dominate high school kids, but that's what is he really doing? You're just doing really good, and he's
Right.
going to run out of actual good competition. And that's something that happens to artists. Like when let's say if you're a amazing engineer or something like that, like you can keep engineering Joe Blow who raps or uh, somebody who sings, but that's just so and so. That's not Adele or that's not Taylor Swift. These people who are spread out across the country or the world, you won't get those opportunities as likely if you just stay in Memphis. Now, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people. I've got friends who are at Sun, like Crockett Hall. I had him on the podcast.
No, Crockett. Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
Had on Zoe Duran, and like they talk about how all these people come from across the world to Sun Studio, and that's great. But I guarantee you, there are some other studios who are in, I guess, more desirable locations that probably even more people come to constantly. So
Right.
it's there's
Sun Studio, it's like a tourist destination almost, it's like, oh, cool, let's go record where I think it's almost unfair to like people like Crockett who are like so talented. And then, you know, because it's got that like stigma and, I bet you probably get put in a little bit of a box there. I don't know. I'd be interested to talk to him about it. But I think you're right that, I don't think I've ever really said anything like this publicly either, because I'm a huge Memphis stan. But at this point in my career, I'm just realizing that it's just part of it, and it's harder. And I haven't left. I have like my family's here, and my better half and our dogs, and I like being able to have a house. I know people who are really, really, really successful in this thing I do, like in LA, and they like share an apartment that's like really small, and we get to have a house here and a yard. It's like, it helps you think about your priorities a lot. I think art is really important, but I've kind of spent 10 years to show, hey, I can do this. And then, we just 3 years in a row, we've like won some category at Memphis, and it's, this sky's still blue. Like nothing's really changed, and there's not like any support after that for people making features in Memphis. And they do, but they're from out of town, and they come here because it's really cheap, and they can hire people here and work them. And I'm pumped for all my friends working on films here and stuff, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, just as you were saying, like imagine if you were the pinnacle and you're just winning indie film every single year, like for the next 10, 15 years. It's like at a point people are gonna be like, why are you what are you doing? Like
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at that point now where it's like I just, I didn't personally submit anything of my own to the festival. There was a music video I did that was like animated last year that did really well and stuff, but I just feel like at some point you got to try to grow beyond that. And also, I think I really take a lot of pride in making sure there are opportunities for the younger generation. And my friend Jason Thibodeau, who's like a younger DP in town, he was my neighbor and was into this stuff. And then I just was like, I'll just, whatever you need or want help with, man, just holler at me. And we've gotten to be pals, and he's like a little brother, and now he's killing it and working on movies and stuff. And I think Memphis is a great town for that, where you can really make a difference and affect local, just opportunities that are so hard to come by. I feel really, really, really lucky and privileged that I got the chance to do any of this stuff, and I didn't come from like a rich family or a silver spoon in my mouth, but I did, you know, um, have some support at some level that probably afforded me opportunities other people didn't get. And I don't know. I think my focus now is kind of like tell stories that deserve to be told in Memphis for people who didn't get their due, and then I'm thinking about a lot of stuff about kind of maybe teaching the younger generation of like how to use a camera or stuff like that. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in town, but that's kind of what my future is right now.
I'm gonna need you like really soon because I just started Damage Media Group with my partner Ryan Olson, and Ryan, he's audio engineer, like that's what he does. He's got Uproar Recording, but with Damage Media Group, that's like my avenue for where I do like photography and videography myself, and then basically we're using it as like a record label. Like we're just umbrella company. Like we're just throwing everything at that.
Right.
But one thing that I really want to do under Damage Media Group is like create my own like TED Talks in Memphis. I know they have TEDx Memphis. I know that. But
Right.
I want it to be something more like specialized. So it's going to be like borderline seminars that are like teaching people, and it's like a hands-on personal like TEDx. So
Yeah, that's really important. That's a good idea.
yeah, I want to get people like you, um, Michael Butler Jr. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, he does great work. He's won 901.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think his film last year was the one that won the narrative, and then ours won the audience.
I want
His roller skating thing was really super cool.
Yeah, I want to get people like that, and then musicians and get Fraser Boy, any like big name artists who are like people who respect. You know what I mean? Like not not anybody who just can't get that like influence. I want
Right,
people who like people are drawn to just teach, and it could be small things like this is how you set up your Canon T7i, or this is how you
right.
set up your red Komodo. You know what I mean? Like just various different things where people can just learn how to do the simplest things.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help. And don't put me after Fraser Boy. He needs to be the closing act that day. Yeah, and I think and I wasn't kidding earlier. YouTube University is. I think I was tweeting something the other day with some friends. I was like, there should be a class that's like K to 12, like in public schools. That's like everything is in the classroom, but it's like, hey, here's a problem you need to fix. Like your faucet is broken, or you have to pay your bills, and scale it for the age of the kid. They have a computer, but all they get is YouTube, and then the teacher kind of oversees if they get stuck. And the kids like learn how to figure things out for themselves. They learn how to discern information, like, oh, this person doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't have a lot of views, or the faucet's not fixed. It's what I mean. So they learn to like discern information that they have coming in, and then you know learn how to support themselves and fix things, because that's better than knowing maybe calculus. I don't know. I know people use calculus, but I don't. So
I think the big issue with school nowadays is like the school system is just outdated. Like I was talking about this on many different podcasts, but it's the fact that like the school system was meant for like in old movies where you see that the school teacher in the class full of like 20 kids, and she's just like got the got the big wand and like about to smack them upside the head. Like that
hmm
old school system is how our still current school system was the foundation of, and it's still borderline like that, unless you're at like some really rich like public private school or something like that, where
right.
you can walk around on your phone all day and you've got IMAX, the latest stuff in all your classrooms. Like those are the exception, but the majority, I would say 80% of America, the class system is just completely outdated.
Yeah, it really is. And especially with the technology, I feel like COVID was such a horrible thing, and but there are silver linings to ripping that band-aid of, we needed schools to be able to teach kids who couldn't come to school or didn't have a way to get there. And I feel really bad for teachers because they got took all the crap from all this. But and I think like the work from home thing, like it was going to take society what, another 50 years for companies to be like, okay. And now it's like, oh, some companies I know, like our agency just had their best year ever,
Hmm.
and we were all working from home. So like, well, we're going to come back in the office, and all of us are like, no,
But
why?
what?
Yeah, so I think there's like tons of companies in it, and so I do not I wish COVID had not happened, right? But it did. And so these silver linings of like, I feel like we probably got a little boost shot in the arm of, that's not a COVID joke, of like using technology that we've needed to use for a long time. And because I think big organizations move really slow, the government, school systems, big companies, and going, okay, we have to make sure our employees can work from home to make money. And then it's like, oh, it goes way up. I think that band-aid rip is a big deal, and I'm glad some people got to take advantage of it. I know a lot of people have not had it so good. Hush, dog.
Yeah,
Sorry,
COVID was an accelerator. Like it
that's a
basically,
much better word for it. Yes.
it just it forced so many people to do things that they weren't normally doing and realize the advantage of it. Like I saw a joke that said COVID helped a lot of people a lot of companies realize that 1 hour or 30-minute meeting could have been an email. And I was like, that's
Yes.
that's so true.
They still have not figured that out perfectly. You know what I mean? Like I spent 4 hours in a meeting in meetings today. It's like, when am I supposed to edit the stuff we're talking about? You know?
Yeah.
But
And then companies will want to have meetings to have a meeting. Like, yeah, we're going to have this meeting to
kill
discuss
me.
this meeting that we're going to have. It's like,
Worst.
but I do think that, some sort of setup where, and I think what I want to do with Damage Media Group is going to be phenomenal. I
Sounds
don't,
like a cool idea, yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's going to turn into, what you were talking about, which I think some government society should install that. I have seen some sort of like trade programs where companies are like, schools will hold a program and like companies get like first dibs on these students who are going through these programs, and some
That's
kids
cool.
are paying for
Yeah.
it. I know
And
Alabama's doing it.
that's a good idea. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of these resources here already in Memphis. There's a charity that I have supported a lot the last couple of years called Give Camp Memphis, and they vet charities in town, and then they did kind of national ones this year because of COVID, but because it was all remote. And they have it's like once or twice a year they do a weekend where a bunch of like coders and developers and creatives uh, volunteer their time for a weekend to solve problems for like nonprofits. So there's this great nonprofit in town called Sweet Cheeks, and they give diapers to mothers that can't afford them. Basically, like they make sure everyone has diapers, whether they can afford it or not in Memphis, right? And I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's the idea of it, and I love the name. It's called Sweet Cheeks. It's hilarious. And they'll show up on Friday and be like, "Hey, we need a way to have people sign up on our website." And then a bunch of coders are like, "Okay, cool, we'll do that." And then they, by Sunday night, they have this new thing on their website so they can make sure everybody that needs diapers gets it. And I figured out a long time ago, like I want to help Give Camp because they pick all the charities and then help them. So it was like, instead of trying to find the right program, I was like, these guys and gals are finding the programs. So that's shout out Give Camp Memphis because they are awesome.
I always
Um,
thought that's how like taxes should be. Like a lot of people would want to pay taxes more if you could, like, at the beginning of the year or something like that, just like pick the like where you want your taxes to go to, and then for sure your taxes are going to that. Because right now we're just like
right,
putting our tax money in like a big pot, and
right,
the government's deciding where it goes. And so
hmm
that's why nobody likes taxes like that, because you don't know where your
right,
money's going. It's going,
right. I at least want to know,
yeah, it's going in
um,
somebody's pockets usually.
yeah, we know it isn't going to school lunches. I'll tell you that. It should be. Come here, dog.
That's
Hey,
a fact.
yeah,
I definitely think that that's something that it's going to grow. It's going to take time. It's going to take resources, but people like you who actually want to make an effort. You actually, and you're an expert in the field. Sometimes you don't get both. Like sometimes you get people who got a lot of effort but don't have the experience, and then you got people with a lot of experience but don't want to put the effort into helping. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm down to talk about it for sure. And uh, like I said, like I've done so many short films. Like I started saying no to a lot of short films just because I feel like I don't need to do it anymore. And there are people in town who need to learn how to do this and want to learn how to do it. And I think my time, that if I'm given my time, it could be more helpful or more valuable to like help people that want to learn how to do this stuff and younger. I want to help the younger kids figure it out.
yeah.
A lot of the people who are already kind of in their 20s and they already know how to use YouTube and find the camera stuff. You know what I mean? Um, but I think that's a good thing that you're doing there. Uh,
So what's some stuff that you've worked on and you just were like, man, this really stepped up my game. Like this really got me to where I am right now.
um, there's probably been a few projects in the last couple of years that I've thought, uh, yeah, this one's the one for the year. There was, and most of them in the last year or two have been documentary work. Um, so like probably 4 or 5 years ago, I was not really happy with where I was and what I would like had work wise. Sorry, my dog's going nuts. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to make as much as I can and find ways to do it and not worry about perfection, but just worry about completion because I want to learn this. I want to do the reps, right? And I did the new soccer team that came to town, 901 FC. I knew their one of their owners is like part of the Redbirds, and I've done some stuff for them. And they said, hey, we're bringing the soccer team. We want you to pitch your idea for doing the team name reveal, right? That I had so I wrote a script and went and sold them on a budget and had Tim Howard in it and wrote like a Memphis script, and I got Al Capone to do the voiceover. And I got Boo Mitchell at Royal to flip an Al Green song, and I was just like, I'm just gonna do this like the craziest Memphis shit, and it was a party. It was awesome. I had like Smoke Machine and Devin Steele like DJing at a soccer field that we filmed at. Like it looks crazy. Like it's one of the coolest things. And I had like a 25-person crew. It was like one of the only things I've had a real budget in town.
What was the budget?
And it was about $100,000 budget, but without agency fees, because it was just me, right? Like there wasn't an agency or anything. The hard dollars we spent 50.
Oh wow.
And I didn't take any money on it. I spent every dime, giving it to full rate local hires, just because I had my agency job at the time and I just wanted to do it so I could show that I could do it, and I hired a bunch of my friends in Memphis who were badass at what they do and made me look good.
That's awesome.
That's all you have to do as a director is just hire people who are better than you.
And the crazy thing is, it's like another thing that's part of it being a director is knowing which pieces to put in play.
Yeah, it's really about just curating and getting out of the way, so that was a big project. And then 2019, I did a web series of documentary shorts. They're like 5 to 8 minute kind of episodes that were some remasters with Memphis Record Pressing and Stax Records. They were remastering a bunch of classic Stax albums, a Barquet's record, a Booker T record, a Staples Singers record, Johnny Taylor, Sam and Dave, Delaney and Bonnie, and then there was one other big one I'm probably forgetting, but it's if you search the Memphis Masters on Stax, it's like a web series, and the Big Star was the other one I forgot. This big Memphis band, and they premiered it in Rolling Stone. Indie Memphis played it last year at Stax, and the Grizzlies, Grannies, and Grandpas danced before it, and I was like, I peaked. That's it. So that was a really big one, and I think, having the short films, we won film prize with Kevin Brooks and Abby Myers, and then Indie Memphis film I did with Kyle Tobkin. Then another film I did with Kyle Tobkin won Oxford Film Fest, and that's Kyle, writer director. He's a badass. And I know he does a lot of stuff around Stax too. He has a feature that we've been working on that's of Soul Man that may or may not happen someday. I hope it does. And I did a short with Justin Harrison and his wife Ariel. They wrote it together, and it was really personal. And Monique Coleman from High School Musical came in town and acted in it, and it was like, holy crap! I'm shooting a short film like with no money here in Memphis, because all these short films are no money, right? And she's in it, and she's so gracious, and she loves what we're doing, and she's so supportive, and it's just like sharing it to her 500,000 Instagram followers, and it's like, what? And I'm just like, she really likes us? Like, yeah, she does. And that won the audience award last year, and it's a really great film, and Justin is killing it putting together. I think he's got some feature stuff in mind. And anyway, all these films we did, and then this year the Indie Memphis short film that was so crazy. I said yes immediately when I heard this. It was like, I make mad beats. James told Noah a story about how he thought the devil lived in a hole in his backyard when he was a kid, and Noah was like, let's make that movie. And they called me and they wanted me to shoot it, and I was like, yes. We're doing that, because Mad Beats was going to do the music, and it is crazy. It's like I'm like, this thing is way too cool for me to have been involved, but looks great. I got to flex a little because it won an indie grant, so I got to spend we got in-kind donations, so we got to use, I had like $30,000 lenses, and like one person to help me carry it. Like we didn't have like a crew, but it was like, cool, we got these lenses, you know? So we went hard, and my buddy Tarandel helped out. He's really badass. He's been on a lot of those projects with me as a lighting guy. And all that being said, I'm just kind of leading up to the feature film I'm working on is a documentary that I've shot and directed, and I'm editing now about Don Bryant, who is a soul singer from here. He wrote "I Can't Stand the Rain" with his wife Ann Peebles, who originally recorded it. And you know, he was one of the cats at Royal, kind of when Al Green came around and Ann Peebles came around, and he put out an album 2 years ago that was like 50 years since his first album, because he kind of took a backseat to Anne and supported her while she had a great career, right? And then he, you know, went on tour in Europe, and I was like, this guy is so great. I want to go on tour in Europe, and I was like, let me make a documentary about you because I think your story is really cool. And then I was making it about how Don had like never really gotten his due. And then after I decided to start making it, and I start making it, Don gets inducted into the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. He puts out a new record after that, gets a Grammy nomination.
Oh wow.
So that's the story. Is like, I think this guy is awesome, and he's like having a comeback, and he deserves a story. And then he gets a Grammy. It's like the perfect. I was lucky and right. Like he's definitely, you know. So I'm trying to edit that and get that out there. Right now it's called Your Own Land, just because of, you know, we talked about it a lot already. Like you can't be a prophet in your own land, and I think that kind of applies to Don's situation. But I may change the name. I don't know yet. But it's coming soon, and so I've kind of, you know, tried to take everything I've done in the last 3 or 4 years to learn how to make a feature documentary. I
So
don't know how yet.
I'm assuming because, you know, you said you just wanted to be a writer and you wanted to do that. Your brain probably is just fixated on storytelling. So is
Yeah,
that why you like to do the documentaries?
yeah, I think so. Um, and it's also, you can make a documentary if you have a camera and some way to do audio. You know, to make a film, you really have to have a lot more than just a good story. But a documentary could just be a good story. And pretty much every great filmmaker that we like started in documentary. You know, like all the old school classics, you know, like Kubrick, Roger Deakins, like shot Blade Runner, like he did documentary first. Villeneuve, who did Dune that just came out, he started in documentary. Um, and you know, all across the board, right? Like Bradford Young is like my favorite DP, and he did a lot of documentary work, and he talks about this a lot. And Deakins and all these guys is like, you learn how to capture the moment when it's happening, and then you can create real beautiful moments later when you're doing something with like lights and a narrative script, you know? So it's like you learn so much from the documentary shooting that it helps you shoot narrative film, you know? And then I think it goes back and forth. But the main reason I got into documentary is because you can do it by yourself, maybe.
So, something that you said was kind of interesting to me when you said that so and so was your one of your favorite DPs. It's kind of funny because like in music, you know, you think about singers and rappers and guitarists, lead vocalists, drummers, these musicians, but hardly is somebody ever like, oh my God, my favorite producer or my favorite audio engineer, like those behind the scenes type people. And I would still say directors and producers are still behind the scenes because they're usually not in a movie unless you're Quentin Tarantino and Django or
Right. Right.
so how do you how hard is it to get to, like, you know, you're not actually knowing the people, but how hard is it to get to know these people? Like, are you YouTubing the people? Are you having a
Yeah,
really
that's literally it. There's you know,
you know,
I
I
think
think
like
like
anything, you want to figure out what you like and then go figure out how they made that, you know, and that's how you learn, right? So you pick your favorite film and go look up, oh, who this is shot really cool. Like, who shot this? And then what's this director's story? And you just go down the rabbit hole. I spend hours on YouTube a week, maybe a day, just like watching stuff like that, like or listening to the greats and of the past and today, like talk about how or why they were inspired to make something. And I think the main thing is read, you know, like get a library card, read as much as you can, and also go on YouTube and find the people you like and learn how they do what they do. And then take that and then make it your own. Good artists create, great artists steal, right? So do your diligence that way. But you bring up an interesting point about the band. Is like, I think until you're really behind the curtain or see how the sausage is made, you don't really think about the whole crew involved of making this film. You're just like, oh, Dune, oh yeah, that was Timothy Chalamet or Oscar Isaac. You know what I mean? It's like, who's the big sexy actor in it, right? But then when you start getting into stuff, and like as a musician, as an artist yourself, it's like you probably got way more into producers when you started making your own stuff, because it was like, oh, how did they do that, and then next thing you're going down like YouTube of like how Jay Dilla did, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you, that's kind of how, and I think that is the hard part, because you talk to people who just like music, and then like my girlfriend all the time, we'll be watching a movie, I'm like, oh man, I love the way they shot, put that light there, and she's like, shut up, we're watching, like, you know. So it's hard to turn that off, and it honestly, it ruins a lot of movie. So it makes it harder for me to get into a movie, but that's on me. You got to kind of turn that off and just try to enjoy it.
Yeah, I was so when I first started, making beats, I couldn't wait to tell other people. And like not just tell people I did it, but to tell people like how music is made. Like I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my god, dude, check out this snare." Like so when I put it in here and like when I do these drums and the way I did this 808, it's like most people don't care. Like
They
most
do
like
not,
the
but
majority of people don't care about the lighting. They don't care
right.
about the did you shoot an S log 3? Like they they don't care about.
Right. They don't. And that's, I feel the exact same way. And it's like, you can tell you're super into what you do, and you're probably good at it. And the stuff I've heard is anyway, that because you have that, you're like excited, like, oh my God, I compressed this snare and then the reverb dragged out a long time. And that really added to this part in the song. And they're just like, motherfucker, just like play the song. It's like, I feel that so hard, because the lighting is this, I feel the same way about the lighting in the camera. You know what I mean? Like, and music is the other big part of movies, and I think it's all about rhythm and timing and stuff. But like the thing I posted on my Instagram the other day, the typewriter thing, like I did with like lights, and just
Beautiful.
wrote this thing. Well, thank you. It's like, I'm starting to realize, like, instead of like showing, oh yeah, here's all this great lighting stuff I can do, it's like, no, fuck that. Just like, here's a dope film I made. And I think it's been until now that I can make something and be proud of it like that, because I knew 15 years ago, like, okay, I don't know shit about this. I still do not, but I've spent 15 years trying to learn about it. And I feel like I can make things that I'm at least, starting to be proud of, that are a complete thing, not just like, hey, look at this cool shot I did, or this cool beat edit I did, or it's like this cool snare, kick snare, beat you did, is like, okay, here's a song, that's, I think that's when you kind of start like feeling like Neo in the Matrix, is like, you've spent so much time doing something and it just starts to make sense and you're not as worried. But then that's the other problem in Memphis, is that there aren't that many people who are looking at it like that way, just because of time, right? Like, I'm not great. Anybody who puts in the time can be at least as good as I am. And there's just not that many other people who are as obsessed, and they can't, then there's people who can't keep up, like the best musicians in town, I know, feel the same way, and every time they get together, it's like, let's jam, because they need that communication with each other. And I feel the same way about like the directors I love working with in town, um, Kevin Brooks is like, we did this one take that was 9 minutes long, just because it was the only thing we could think of that was hard for us. And it was really hard. But and it fit the story, right? We wouldn't have done it without that. But I just remember it felt like being, in like the conference finals of something again, and I just loved that feeling, of like playing sports in high school or whatever. Like that, it kind of felt like that, but in a weird, on the art side sense.
You saying that makes me realize that's people who are that separates the levels of people. The people who are like, "Oh, I did good." And then there's people who are like, "What else can I do?" And like, "How else can I challenge myself?" Like
Yeah,
if you're the type of person who isn't willing to challenge yourself, then that's how I know you've capped out. Like
right.
when you stop doing things that are hard, I'm like, "Oh, you've reached your peak." Like I'm looking at your peak right now. But
Hmm.
people who are like constantly doing stuff that they're not comfortable with and making themselves just uncomfortable with their position or strategy or abilities, those are the people who are going to continue to escalate in life.
Yeah, man. And I don't even, you don't have to do it for fame or for followers or clout or any of that shit. It's just like, what's going to make me fulfilled with the work I'm doing? And it's challenging. Um, excuse me. I, something you said was really, that was a good point there. Um, and I was thinking about it that, oh, okay. We're talking about like, if you're not challenging yourself, also part of it is like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Do you know about this?
Don't.
I learned about it on Wikipedia. It's like, when people start out doing something, like your taste is really high, right? But your understanding of how to make that is not there, right? There's an Ira Glass thing about this, but basically Dunning-Kruger effect says like there's a curve of like when you start doing something, you think you're way better than you are, right? And then as you get like better, it's inversely correlated, like you think you know less. So it's like it starts like, oh, I'm gonna start playing guitar. I'm awesome. And then you spend years learning, you're like, oh my god, there's so much and I suck, but like by the time you get to here, like you're an awesome guitar player, you know what I mean? Like I think it's the same with anything. So you got to stay humble and you got to stay hungry. That's it. If you think you've maxed out, like no, like I'm, it was a high to feel good, like oh cool, we won our thing in Indie Memphis, but it was a team. First of all, I didn't do it by myself, and then I've done it before, and uh I don't know, like it great, but there's no what's that next level for me, and it's try to finish this feature and see what I can do, and I want other people to try to win that Indie Memphis thing and then do their feature and stay hungry.
I mean, I think I'm definitely at that point of like, I remember when I first started rapping and I first started like engineering vocals and making beats and stuff. Like, I thought I was horrible. And then I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. And then I remember when I was realizing how much there is. And then how much I was like, oh, I'm so bad.
That's when you're getting good, is you're starting to understand, because it's like I think doing something simple really well is better than like impressing people with your compression gates on your snare. You know what I mean? So like that's why I love soul music and the soul music doc. It's like the Al Green drum beat, dude. Howard Grimes, the drummer, he's a legend. I have interviews from him in my documentary, and it's just like the guy's just playing like four on the floor, and it is the funkiest shit ever. And people have been searching to find that pocket forever. It's like he kind of created the pocket, but it's like that simplicity when you realize there's all this other stuff, and then I'm just gonna go with this simple beat. And then I just watched the Kid Cudi documentary. You got to watch it if you haven't. I'm,
Oh,
I,
where's it at?
it's on Amazon.
Okay.
It has crazy names in it, dude. It's like all these producers, Kanye,
Kanye.
Timothy Chalamet is in it for some reason. Shia LaBeouf is in it. Cudi's all in it. Uh, and then like the guys he made his record with.
Did you watch the Travis Scott documentary on Netflix?
No, I did not. I want to watch that one. I know he's kind of in some hot water right now, right?
Yeah. So
Uh,
that was actually in that documentary, and it's starting to shape how I feel about Travis. I don't know personally, but just him as an artist. Um, so I know in the past, this was in the documentary, but it's he got arrested one night at a show because the police said he incited a riot, and so they literally just had to come on stage like, Travis, we got to arrest you because you incited a riot,
Oh,
which
so
was,
he's done this before.
yeah, it was, but it wasn't like he literally incited the riot. It was just his
Right.
show was so crazy that they said it was a riot, and so they had to arrest him. But like they literally just came to get him out of jail, bailed him out, and then I think he like
Yeah.
literally left jail and finished the show.
I mean, he's just a performer, right? Like I don't know what happened last weekend, so put that
So
aside. Like, but
there's
I
a
thought he was like a theater kid who just put on this persona. Like I've seen like late night talk show interviews with him where he was like, "Yeah, I was just a theater kid, and then I do this." So it's like it's fake, right? So he's not really
so in the documentary it shows, him growing up or whatever and everything, but like he's just a really, like, he's got a lot of emotion in his music, and he's not like some crazy, like, I don't know, antic type person. Like,
right. Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
think
like his art is how he gets that out, sort
yeah,
of thing, right?
I think I've heard. I've never been to a Machine Gun Kelly show, but a lot of people say Machine Gun Kelly, like his shows, are some of the greatest shows. They'll say he'll like be jumping on top of like towers and stuff, and like jumping off and like doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But like, you've like the famous meme of Travis when he's got his shirt off and there's like fire in the background. He's like he's just putting on a good show, but
Yeah, yeah.
he's not some out of control person. Like we haven't, the media like TMZ would have exposed him.
Right. Okay, well that's good to hear at least. Anyway, I should watch that documentary.
Yeah, it's really good because it shows like how down to earth he can be. Like, somebody at his level, you can record in $1 million studios whenever you want to. And there's one part where he's recording in somebody's house, and he literally has like blankets. He's sitting in a chair and has blankets over him as like soundproofing, and that's how he recorded like one of the biggest hits on his old album was
That's
recorded
awesome.
like that. And then like there's a part where they're mixing bystanders. They're mixing that song in a house, and they just like he starts playing it, blaring it out loud, and it's just like, that's where they were mixing it. That's where they were putting that song together, and it just shows how the process works. And if you end up doing stuff like that with artists around here, it's gonna blow up so crazy because like people appreciate that. People, especially, well, I guess I might be an exception because I just love to see the story, but I love to see the process. And that's something I need to get better about. I'm going to start documenting every time. Like, I have a rapper named Crisis J over a good bit. Matt Lucas, I've had him over, and a good bit of other people. But, like, I need to start documenting every time I have somebody over because people love to see, like what we were doing. Like,
Yeah.
how did that come together? Because that story just needs to be told.
It's cool, and it helps you kind of consider what you're doing more, and you think about it, and you can go back and see. I saw you post the other day about Big Luca. He's awesome. I remember he like there's a bunch of artists in town that like 10, 11 years ago I was like filming videos with them, and they kept hustling, and I kind of did my thing too, and now they're kind of popping off like Pro, like I remember filming stuff with Pro and his friend Pat, my friend Pat that I knew, and I met Pro through him, but it was like 10 years ago, man. And it was like, we filmed at this spot on Union called the Trap House. And it was like, I think like Gorilla Zoe recorded there. And there were some producers like Webb and Chicken that moved to Atlanta, but they did a bunch of stuff there. But it was just like, I didn't even know what I was doing. And I just, we were cool. And I was like, yeah, man, let's make some videos. And now I like seeing, and, Tim, Luca, he was around then too. And it's like, I'm so pumped to see artists who like didn't give up, and are still fighting and putting out good work, like I've loved his stuff since day one, but it's hard to get it seen in Memphis. You got to like grow. And I think, part of the struggle with our like do this for like society is that everybody's successes are built on all these other people's successes, right? So like I couldn't be where I was making films. I'm not anywhere, but even at my level is like I can name like 25 people who, if they hadn't helped me do this thing, that I wouldn't be able to do this, you know? And it's like all the way up to like the people, the assholes that made Facebook, you know, like there were all these other things like they stole from and learned from, and they got out there first, right? Like I think that happens with everything. So, you know, for every one good rapper that comes out of Memphis, there's like 1,000 that opened up all these little ripples that let them, like Moneybag or somebody, make it. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, we all got to just try to do our thing, and then, you know, whether you make it or not, it's not about that, right?
That's something that, like, that last sentence you said is something that I think about all the time. And it's not about, like, whatever you're doing. It's not about making that the next big thing. It's about just literally attempting. And that's like what NASA is. Like NASA, they have an impossible goal. Like, if you really think about it, like, what is NASA doing? Like, they don't know what they're just doing stuff. Like,
Yeah,
they're trying,
that's a really good analogy. Yeah.
they're just discovering things in space, but there's no end goal because there's no end to space. So they're just doing things, and that's how duct tape came along, was because of NASA. That's how power tools came along, because they needed tools to work outside of the International Space Station, and they didn't know how to do it because you can't just plug something up.
Oh shit, I didn't know that about power tools. That's cool.
So that's how they invented power tools, was they needed tools to work outside the space station. And so they invented power tools through NASA. And it's just by doing things you get things. There's a book I'm reading. It's a guy in the music business. His name is Bobby Owsinski, and I've been telling everybody about him. But it's like 150 best business music business advice, and one of the people in the book, they said that one of their best business advice was, you by doing things, things happen. If you do something, something will happen. If you do nothing, nothing will happen. And I love that, because that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, whether you get to where you're going isn't as important as just trying to get there. Like, the
Right.
attempt to get there is way more important than if you actually get to where you're trying to go. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to change where you're going in life. Just ask an 18-year-old trying to go to college. Like,
Right.
you're
Right.
going to change your route. The important thing is the attempt to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Just mix it up and make things move. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's smart.
that's
I need
something.
to read that book.
Yeah, the cool thing about the book is Bobby has a podcast, and the last question in his podcast, he always asks the people, what's the best business advice that somebody has imparted to you or that you have learned?" And that's his whole book. His book is just the answer people gave to that question. And I was like, "Oh, that was genius."
That's smart.
He had a whole book just because
This man did a listicle book from his own podcast. That's smart.
that was genius.
But that's the world now. Go look at like after every Tigers game, it's like the writers in town are like, tell me 10 things you liked about the Tigers game. And then they post that, and then that's the article. It's like, what? That's a different thing. But yeah, that man, I like that. I read a book this summer that really helped me called Ego is the Enemy. And it's kind of like, if you do anything creative at all, it's awesome. And I got a lot of ways to go on it, but it kind of helps you think about like just getting out of your own way. You know what I mean? Like, the any Memphis stuff is great. It doesn't define me. I don't care. Like, that's cool. But like making something I'm proud of and putting it out there for me is what I care about, and proving to myself that I can do these things that I want to do and enjoy doing, and needing the team to support me the way they have is like, anyway, all that being said, it's like, just get over yourself, make the thing. If it sucks, who cares? Make another thing. And then if that sucks, make another thing. And then you learned and learned and learned. And then there's a lot of great stuff in it. I can't break it down that great. I'm not a good editor, but Ego is the Enemy, Ryan Holiday, I think is the guy's name. It's pretty easy, quick read, and it's good. It's good.
It's about that time. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, man, I'll go all night. Sorry.
Oh, that's why I wanted you to come in the studio, because they, like, in studio, these podcasts usually last around like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I think the longest one I've ever done was with this photographer. What is his name? Michael Cataltopi. Phenomenal photographer.
We didn't even talk about photography. We'll have to do that someday.
Yeah. But that's what happened with me and him. Me and him talked about just life for like 3 hours. And I was like, it's about time to wrap this up, man. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
We didn't even talk about photography. So we
that's
spent like
how
another
it goes.
30 or 40 minutes talking about photography after that.
That's funny. I mean, I could just tell, like, yeah, I mean, you're a really interesting guy, man, even just from our messages on Instagram and seeing like you're doing your thing and you clearly have a really good perspective on things. And it's, you said you were in the military. Like, I bet that helped you get a lot of good perspective on stuff. So thank you for your service, first of all. And, second of all, like, that's not an easy thing. So it probably helps you get perspective on like, this shit doesn't matter as much, and that's how you make great things, is like, if it doesn't matter and you're just doing, anyway. So, you're doing your thing, and I'm pumped that Memphis has you as its own right now. So, I'm a fan.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just get so excited to help people accomplish what they're doing. Like, I just finished recording a song, and it's going to be like a cipher, and it has Matt Lucas and Crisis J in it, and then we're going to shoot a video to it, and I'm just doing it just cause. And then I want to. I told them, I was like, this is like, I know I recorded y'all in my studio and I'm shooting you on my cameras, but y'all can use this however you want to. Like, I'm not going to hog this. Like, if y'all
That's gracious of you. Yeah, and it's there's a line. Don't it goes in waves, because right now I've finally found a space where I like just shooting things for fun, but for like the last 2 or 3 years, I haven't really been that way, because it's meant so much to me to like do this thing, and now I've kind of been able to step back. So like, kudos to you for finding that joy and just doing it right. And it's like, cool, here you go. Like, I've done that a few times recently, and it means so much. Like, that's so cool.
So what are, like, things that you want people to know about you? I always end it with, like, give everybody your, like, websites or Instagrams and stuff like that. But give people that, but like, what's some films that people can see, and everything that they can get to know who TheFilmJerk is.
Yeah, I'm just a nerd who likes camera stuff and music and Memphis, and my dogs and my girlfriend. Not in that order. She's first. Yeah, I mean, I guess you go to thefilmjerk.com or instagram.com/filmjerk. You'll find me on there. The last film I did is The Devil Will Run, written and directed by Noah Glenn. I produced and shot it. I make Mad Beats. It was his story, and he did the music. There's a trailer online if you go to my page, and then I'm not sure if it's still playing online, but I think he's talking about doing a showing at the Tower or something. I don't know. I may have spoken out of school there. So, but and then I have this feature documentary of my own I directed and shot called Your Own Land about Don Bryant. If somebody wants to see a trailer for that, I'll send it to you, but it's not public yet. I've had people in the right places say they'll see it when I'm done, but I'm trying to get done. So, holler at me if you want to shoot or if you want to figure out something you can't figure out with a camera. I can probably help you.
I would definitely say I will need you to help out with those. I don't even know. I was thinking about, and I'm a huge fan of telling everybody what I'm going to do. Life lesson. I think I made this up. I can't remember, but if you, actually, I'm pretty sure I did not make this up. But if you tell people what you're doing, then it makes achieving your goals easier. And so,
Absolutely agree.
and
Yeah, I think, yeah, say it, be about it.
yeah,
You have to hold yourself accountable and get it done. It's easy to just hide in silence and then post some shit like, hey, here's the thing I did. Well, cool. And nobody's waiting for it. There's no, is that it's not like, oh, I'm kind of getting to that point with the documentary. Like I got to finish it, but it's hard.
So, the things that I want to do, I think I'm going to call them gifts. It's I've made up an acronym. It's like giving information. I forgot what the F and T were for, but that's
we'll work on the branding on that later. I'm happy to help with like the things I know about helping with.
Yeah, but yeah. So I'll definitely have to use you for that and just be able to help people out in the area.
Yeah, hit me up, man. Yeah, I love talking camera stuff. If people message me, they can email me, or if you want to talk, if you need got camera questions, first of all, go look on YouTube. But then if you can't figure it out there, then I'll help you.
Awesome. Well, thank for everybody for tuning in. This was Andrew Fleming and the Film Jerk.
See y'all.
We'll see you next time.